so much for joining me today, Louise, and for anyone that's joining us, sincere apologies for the technical difficulties. What I wanted to do is obviously firstly welcome lovely Louise to tonight's session. Thank you so much, Louise, for taking the time to chat with me. Really, really appreciate it. And what I want to do is just have a really informal conversation with you at your own pace regarding what you've been through and obviously what you're up to now and how that journey has proceeded and progressed, if you're happy to do that.
Yeah, perfect.
Fantastic, thank you. So Louise, can you just start by introducing yourself, please, just for the ladies that are watching who may not know you already?
Yeah, of course. So I'm Louise Culyer and I'm living in Staffordshire. I used to be a teacher for years and years and years. I used to teach dentistry, and then my life turned around and now I'm a coach where I help lots of other people rebuild themselves physically and mentally.
Amazing, brilliant. And can you tell us where your kind of experience of domestic abuse started, or was there anything that kind of you think impacted that journey up to that domestic abusive relationship for you?
So I've had, like, throughout my childhood growing up and things like this, I had quite a lot going up, and then specifically I'd say in the last few years, well, not now, but there was not my ex-husband, but a man that I met after my ex-husband, he was abusive, where he actually got me pregnant without my wanting to be, and yeah, it was very abusive. I wasn't allowed to see him, I wasn't allowed to go to work. I had to go through Clare's Law, where the police then rang me and told me how violent he was to myself and to other women as well. Like, my heart was thinking about all the other women, because yes, he got me pregnant, he was sexually abusive to me and stuff. What I heard from what he did to other women, I was like literally next to nothing. So, and I felt like it was vile what he did to me, but what I could hear from him doing what he did with other women was really bad. And at that time I was actually pregnant with his child as well, so I just felt really sick.
Yeah, absolutely. And was there a point that kind of led you into that relationship? And again, feel free to divulge as much as you want, but did you meet him, was he someone you knew before, or someone that you came across by a particular means?
No, so I was with my ex-husband for like 8-9 years, and he treated me really well. But then, like, after I divorced my ex-husband, it was about 2 years after that, I was like, right, I'm ready to like find a relationship again. I dated a couple of people, and then I found this guy. Within 2 weeks I had the red flags, but I could feel inside like something's not right. But then, like, I was kind of like, is this me just talking myself out of it because I've been through a lot of this, that and the other? And my friends were like, maybe you just don't want to go through what you've been through, heartbreak again and all of this. So I actually just ignored them red flags. Before
I think we've all done that. Yeah.
Before you know it, everything was my fault. Things have been smashed up the wall. So it just went from literally having a couple of red flags to completely like locked down, pregnant, can't get anywhere.
Was that in a short space of time, that kind of meeting? Did you ever have that kind of what I call like the honeymoon stage, or was that just nothing at all really?
So we had the 2 weeks where I was like, okay, I had the red flags, but then the next couple of months were okay-ish, but I was just trying to think maybe it is just me, and I was trying to learn about myself, but then by then it was too late. I remember going on holiday with him, and I was literally alone in Greece, and I think that I was like, I remember I spent every single night crying, like, what have I done? Like, I didn't think I was going to make it back. I was just like, oh my God. And then I realised it was actually my gut feeling I should have listened to.
Did you feel that in the relationship though? Like, you said about talking to friends and they were just like, oh, it could be, sort of linked to previous relationships. Did you yourself like feel it in your gut during that relationship, or was it only afterwards that you were kind of like, oh God, that was like horrific?
No, at the time I kind of just grams, how can I get out of this? Like, at the same time, it wasn't too long before I was pregnant as well, so I tried to actually leave. So then when I did leave, I actually got rid of him for about a month. So I came off contract, and I was like, right, okay, I'm done. Came off contraception, and in that time, that's when it happened. So when he came back, at the first couple of months, I was just like, yeah, maybe it is me. And then after that, I was like, right, I need to leave. And then I had about a month where I was actually able to get rid of him, but that he just came back, and that's when I couldn't actually get rid of him when he did come back. So I knew, like, the first bit, I generally thought it could have just been me because of like my self-doubt, like I didn't want to get hurt. Am I just making scenarios out of my head until things like that were happening? And I was like, right, now it's not me, I need to get out.
Yeah, absolutely. And how did you even start to kind of get out of that kind of relationship? Because it sounds like he was obviously a nasty piece of work. I mean, was there kind of, you know, support there for you, or were you trying to like work through it by yourself?
At first I did it by myself. I explained to like my nan, like I'm pregnant with this man, and she was like, even my nan, like she was like, I don't think you should have this child, like just because of who he is, he won't let you go. And I was like, no, it's okay. So I did just try and see the good side of it, because obviously I was pregnant, like my mother instincts just came in. But then it wasn't until like my midwife was like, Louise, you're getting very stressed, like, I can see these things, you need to go through a Clare's law. She knew, she had a couple of moms that had also been through it, and then their child was born really poorly because of the stress that the mom was through, because what I was going through, and like other moms had like lost their hair through stress. And realistically I was thinking, what am I actually bringing? I started thinking, like, what am I actually bringing this child into? Like, I can't keep them safe, I can't keep myself safe right now. And I've was starting to feel more vulnerable. The further along I got pregnant, like the further along it went. So that's when I started to take the help. It wasn't until then when my midwife was like, right, you need to do a Clare's law, you need to do this. And that's when police came in, and they put like things in place. He didn't stick to them, of course, but like I had people that were like helping then. But it wasn't until then when the midwife told me, look, your child's going to be like this is the type of life you might have. Like, it didn't hit me till then. And then I was thinking, how can I just get away and not let him find me? And I was just like, I just didn't know what to do then.
Yeah. What did you do? I mean, like, it sounds like a hellish situation. I mean, how do you even start to kind of be in that scenario, you know, with the police support, everything else, to then, you know, start afresh, you know, like a new life without someone like that kind of in the background?
I listened to what my nan and the midwife said. Unfortunately, like, I didn't want to do it. Like, it took me weeks and weeks and weeks, but I was just like, I felt more selfish of having, like, I didn't feel like, and it wasn't only that, I was like, what if I have a daughter? Because like, it could do the same to her. Like, you know what the law's like now, it's word against mouth, like he could still get like 50-50 with her. Like, so many different things were going through my mind. And I was just like, one of my things from childhood is only have a child if you know you can protect them, look after them properly, and all of these things. So I kind of felt like I had no choice, which is really sad, because when I actually left my ex-husband, I was actually pregnant with a child that I did want, and I lost it. So like, this time I was like, I'm going to do everything to look after it, but I was just like, I physically can't. Maybe looking back, maybe I could have, if I could, I don't know, but at that time, no, I don't think I could.
It sounds like you made the right decision, you know, at that time for you and the child, to be fair, because it wasn't a decision that sounded like you made just for you, was it? I think, you know, with the child in mind and their future and what that might look like.
Realistically, even if I did manage to have got out, how would I had a home? I can't just, I did think, right, I'm just going to like move away, but I bought a house. You can't just sell your house, it takes a while. So I couldn't just vanish like that. And so he couldn't find us, but he would have been able to find us. I'd have had to stay here for so many months. And then how would I have been able to find a job when you're pregnant? Like, because at that time I wasn't self-employed. I was just like, and then how am I going to look after the kid? I was just like, oh,
there's so much to consider, isn't there?
Yeah. I think if my housing was different, where I didn't own a property and I could just literally flee from one place to another, it might have been slightly different. But that wasn't just an opportunity. I can't just, like, I had a home, I have to move this place, I have to sell it. So
yeah, of course. And did he kind of like disappear after that then, once you kind of decided actually you were moving on by yourself? Was it kind of a case of clean slate, so to speak?
The police kept coming in and out, to the point it kind of like got a little bit, well, it wasn't until I told him I'd lost the baby, he wouldn't let me go then. He was even when I was bleeding and all of these things, he was trying to get me pregnant straight away, even when I was in pain and all of these things. And then he started abusing me, saying, you should be lucky that I find you attractive, nobody else will, like, at least I'm trying to have a child with you again, and all of these things. Just like, but it'd been a matter of a day or two, like, I was just like, I couldn't get him away. And then from there, like, he kind of went, and then he went for a little bit from what I can remember, but then he came back again, and I literally just booked a flight to the US and told him I'm leaving.
Wow, good for you.
I just booked a flight. I ended up getting stranded over there, like I couldn't come back or anything because the flights were really dodgy. But yeah, I just told him I'd left and I was in the US. and I was only went there for like a couple of weeks, and then I told him I found another guy, which I hadn't, but I had to keep on doing such dramatic things to make him leave.
Wow. How sad though that you had to kind of do that. I mean, and good for you in a way that you had the courage to take such a drastic step, but sad that it took that drastic step to actually, kind of move on, from that situation.
It was tough because at the time, because obviously I didn't want to get rid of the baby. When you got the pills, I don't know if anybody's done this before, but they told me to do it in a certain amount of time, and obviously I'd gone further along, so I did it when I was actually quite far, so I didn't actually lose the baby properly. So I ended up carrying this baby like in me but not alive for a long period of time, to the point I got sepsis. It was like months and months went by, and I was just so drained, like physically and mentally. I was just like, I've just got to go. Obviously I couldn't sell, so I was just like, I just went to the US.
Yeah, bless you. And how was that after that relationship? Did it kind of just fade away, or was there any repercussions of that?
No, he was still here when I got back, but a little bit different. I think he could see like how ill I actually was. I don't know what it was. Something just switched in him, like something changed in him. I don't know if the police actually got to him or how I was. Like, I don't know what it was. Something happened and it kind of slowed down. He could come back tomorrow, I don't know. He knows where I live, but he's probably forgot now. It's been a couple of years, but
yeah, wow. And how do you start to rebuild after that? I can't get my head around, obviously being in a domestic abusive relationship is blimmin' hard, but then when you've got the complications of a pregnancy and how to kind of manage that, that's just a different level, isn't it? How do you start to like rebuild after something like that?
I had to get like, I don't know, I had to take a step back because I was really poorly, like, because I'd carried this baby around. I had 3 surgeries to actually remove the whole of the baby, and then I ended up getting sepsis as well, because what he had done to me at the same time, like, it just wasn't like I was open at the same time as him doing stuff. It wasn't very nice, so I ended up getting sepsis. So I had to take a lot of time away. I just did work that I could. From then, because I'd already been through a lot previously, I kind of just remembered what built me up last time. So like from when I was homeless and all of them things, I kind of remembered everything that I'd put together last time and just built myself back up from there, like fitness, nutrition, mind work. And then within a few months I actually quit my job. It was only a few months after he left I actually quit my job and became self-employed. So
such a brave move, isn't it? Because even like to come self-employed, I say normally in the most respectful way, but it's really daunting, isn't it? But when you've been through that, and no doubt you're probably still carrying a bit of like the trauma quite literally from that, to then go, no, I'm going to be self-employed, is actually really courageous, to be fair.
In my head it was like, I've got nothing else to lose, because I always thought like I'd lost one baby. I was just like, when I have a baby again, it's going to be my everything. But then I had to choose between me and my baby, and I was just like, well, I've got nothing else to lose now. I've already lost everything. It's like I haven't got a baby, and it was just like a switch. Like I haven't got anybody to actually look after. So it doesn't matter if it goes wrong. All I have to do is get a job. Whereas before, when I was pregnant, I was like, how am I going to do this? How am I going to do that? And then as soon as obviously I did lose the baby, I say lose because I didn't want to lose it. It was like, well, I've only got myself to look after. Like if it goes wrong, I can just next month. It doesn't matter. I can go without food for a bit. But if it's when you've got a child to think about, it's completely different. So I think that was slightly different as well. I was like, I've got nothing else to lose now.
Yeah. So was it kind of like, was that, and again, feel free to divulge as much as you want, but was there kind of like a rock bottom point that you were like you just described, kind of like your rock bottom? So I can't get any kind of worse, shall we say, so I might as well now start rebuilding because I've hit that point, I'm still here, off I go again, kind of thing. Was there any moment that you were like, no, I need to kind of rebuild? Or
not at this point, not in the domestic violence. Well, it was, but my rock bottom was like a good few years before that. But because I'd been through what I had a good few years, not easy, it wasn't easy, but like deep down I knew I'd get through it, as hard as it was. Like as the months went on, I was becoming drained, and like I was just like, I was actually asking, when is this, not is this gonna ever end? It was more of a, when is this gonna end? Whereas before, if I was my previous self, it would have been a, is this ever gonna end? How do you see what it was completely different. Definitely. It was very the same feelings of feeling trapped. I don't know how I'm going to get out of this. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I was confident that like I was going to get out of it.
Yeah. Just kind of working through it. And was it kind of like a conscious effort into, I know you mentioned you drew on sort of certain things like the fitness and the healthy eating and obviously the mindset. Was it kind of consciously doing sort of things each day, or was it more kind of, I'm going to try and get through this day and I might, you know, try and eat healthy, or was it kind of conscious steps to rebuild yourself?
Just one step at a time. How are you feeling right now? Stepping back, like, what can I do to actually make this situation better? As bad as the situation it is, there is always something to be proud of. So like, obviously I was really poorly, like I had sepsis. I was thankful that like I could actually walk outside. I was happy to go for walks. I was just like making, like, I was so, the gratitude of being able, there's a lot of, like, going back to what the midwife and the police and everything have told me about how bad he was to the other girls. I was thankful. So just still being thankful that I was like seeing the other side of it massively helped. Fitness side, I was just literally putting that energy back into myself. My body had literally just been through so much. So it was just like, what can I do to like replenish what I've just lost? Like eating well, going back to the gym, like, because obviously I was going to the gym, I was pretty trim, and then I just didn't go for ages, and it was just like, I went back like a different person. So I was like having to rebuild physically again. So it's just like what I've done before, just redoing.
How do you find like the motivation to do that there? I mean, were there days where you were like, you know, like, I just can't be bothered, or was it kind of, you know, because I think when we come out of domestic abuse, often, you know, confidence is low, and we're, like you said, rightly so, we're fatigued and just, you know, mentally and physically drained. Was it kind of a case of like, you did it for yourself, so was there something within you that was like, no, I've got to do it? Or were there days where you were like, no, today I'm not gonna do that today?
Yeah. So like when you've gone through domestic abuse, your self-worth is very, very low. And obviously every single person wants to be loved, don't they? But then at the same time, you've got to think to yourself, if you don't love yourself, how is somebody else ever going to love you? And you've got to treat yourself how you wish others to be treated. And obviously my ex-husband treated me like a queen, but so this was kind of like the first time, like as an adult, I was just like, how can, there's something that I have to treat myself the way I wish people to treat me. So like, I haven't got like a role model. So if, say, like I did have that child, if they were telling me I didn't want to do this, I didn't want to do that, I was like, come on, it's going to do you well. So you kind of got to speak to yourself in that way as well. And you've got to remember, we've got so many thoughts in the head. You've got to like counteract them.
Yeah, it's true actually, isn't it? It's a constant battle, isn't it? I think especially, you know, after challenges, you know, obviously like domestic abuse, I think it's kind of like, you know, that kind of one person on that shoulder saying you got to do this, the other person's like, oh, I can't, I'm too tired, or I'm not good enough, or I never will. And it's kind of, like you said, it's trying to really fight yourself, isn't it? But you touched on a really good point about that self-love, self-care, and treating yourself like you would do someone else, you know, someone that you really love, which we all should love ourselves, shouldn't we, as a priority number one, really. But I think we often forget that, don't we?
And if like there's something you can't do, just look at what you can do. So like obviously when I had sex and I was bleeding, I couldn't go and do like deadlifts, squats and stuff like that. Just getting out of the house, back into the environment, just gave me that confidence of being around normal people. Like it didn't feel normal, like people looked like weird people to me because I've been so isolated for such a long time. Like it was like strange being there, but I think it just did me the world of good, just getting into the environment just as soon as I could and starting to see some sort of normality.
Definitely
massively helped. So if you can't do everything, just do what you can at that point. And I say that to all of my clients as well, like whether you're having a bad day, good day, what can you do today that's going to make you feel better?
Yeah, it's a really good point, isn't it? I think sometimes even if it's something simple, I guess, isn't it? Because I think, you know, I know not everyone watching may be into fitness, but I suppose it's what kind of, you know, will kind of push them, or not push them, but take them to that next level, isn't it? And sometimes it's a bit of like 2 steps forward, 2 steps back, and a 10 steps forward again, and a bit like that. But I think, you know, is that how your journey was, Louise, or was it more kind of, no, I'm going to keep kind of pushing forward?
Like I would know I'm going forward, but then I feel like every single time you grow, you get that same feeling of like, oh my God, this is hard again. So it's like I always feel like, when is this ever going to stop? Like even to the point now, you'll feel like every time you're doing something uncomfortable, and you'll feel like you're going, it's something new. So I did feel like I was going back and forth a lot, but then when you actually take a step back, I'll be like, well, this time last year I didn't do this, I didn't do that. Like it was like, even though the feeling is the same, you've got to actually put like even though that the feeling is the same doesn't mean it's necessarily the same. So your feelings are attached to a thought. It's only the thought that like actually puts the like tells you what it is, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's true.
If you're actually saying I'm feeling like this because of that, it's just because you've attached that thought. But every single feeling is the same, but we just got to identify where it's coming from. It's only attached to the thought that makes it so bad.
That's interesting, actually.
If you can change that thought pattern, you'll just be comfortable with the actual feeling, and you'll just ignore that thought and you will just move forward with it.
Yeah, is that kind of like just try and translate that from my perspective, is that kind of like saying that everything's neutral but we kind of place our own thoughts on it? So say you said something rude to me and I was like, oh god, that was awful, how dare she, and I got really angry, but I've only interpreted what you said through my own perspective, and do you know what I mean? I've kind of almost let you into my energy, shall we say.
Yeah,
is that what you mean, kind of things are neutral but we place what thoughts and feelings we want onto that
way? There's two different ways we've just looked at it. So the way I've just explained, you've got a one feeling, and then if you've got a bad thought, a happy thought, a sad thought, if it's a bad thought, you'll just think, oh my god, this is the worst. If it's like a loving thought, you're like, oh, I'm not so in love. If you're happy, it's going to be, that's what the feeling. It's just one feeling. No, it's only the thought that's attached to it that categorizes it, if you're happy, sad, or angry.
Yeah.
The way that you've explained it is like we all look through at the world in different lens, so you take things on of how you perceive it. So we could all be looking at something in the same way, but we've got, do you know what's the actual scientific word? It's the radar. When you've got, like, when you go out, I can't remember the actual scientific word, when you actually go out and there's so many things that you can look at in the world, but what's actually on your brain is what you will actually see. So like you see what you actually
interesting.
So if I said like a yellow car, you would see 10,000 yellow cars.
Yeah, that's true, isn't it? It's often the way. Yeah.
Referring back to what you've just said, if I called you a name, I don't know whatever name it was, I could call you like Harry or something like I don't know what to say. Do you know what I mean? I could call you a name and you could find it offensive, but I could call it somebody out. I could call somebody next to you a name, the exact same name, and they won't find it offensive. You find it offensive.
That's true.
To how you've been treated, or you've heard that, or the way that you look at that word. So
that's so true, actually, isn't it? It's quite interesting. I mean, is that kind of for your journey then, after that experience for you, is the mindset been like really powerful for you then in terms of like transformation?
Mindset and emotions. So emotions of being able to just sit back and handle the emotion. So like half of the time we actually react from the emotion, so you're not actually going from like peace, love, or anything like that. You're going from like fury, anger, excitement, or something like that. So when you react from emotion, it's it doesn't kind of work out the way that you want it to, because afterwards you're like, have you ever said something out of anger and you're like, oh my god, I wish I didn't said that? So it's that time where you've got to learn how to, like, mindset wise, okay, am I in my emotions right now, or is this actually what it is? So like the week before my period, I do not make any type of decisions. I'm not emotional. Unless I have to, I'm just like, no, just leave it with me. Next week when I'm less emotional, I'll actually sit down and know I'm actually doing it logically. So mindset, definitely, of just being sensible, like seeing what I'm doing with that. Emotions is a massive thing, of when learning how you are actually handling your emotions and just literally diving into it. Why are you actually getting this emotion?
How do you do that? I mean, what worked for you? Do you write it down, or is it just more of a conscious thought of going, I sort of felt a bit like that when they said that, or I've recognized that I'm anxious when this happens? Is there anything that you kind of practiced, I guess, to change that mindset?
Yeah, a lot of things with like just being aware. Number one, being aware, just watching yourself. Don't watch other people as much, watch yourself. So like if I'm going in an environment, I don't really care what anybody else is doing, as long as they're all happy. Like I don't care about it. But I always notice about how I am. So like if I'm around somewhere, I'll be able to notice if I'm happy, if I'm feeling safe, if I'm doing this. If I'm feeling excited, you'll see me more bubbly. If I'm feeling a bit like off guard, you can see that. And you just watching yourself, that's the first thing that you need to kind of do, is just like watch yourself more than anything else, and just ask yourself, like what you've just said, is if you're getting like thoughts and you're getting these feelings, write down the thoughts, and just like then you can, there's different ways you can do it, there's so many different ways you can do it, but you can actually categorize of where it's coming from, because actually half the time when you're getting emotions, it's not actually from that actual present moment, it's actually from something in the past. So this is why I work subconsciously. So say if, for instance, if a car crashed into you and it was a little girl accidentally, she didn't even realise she was doing it, you'd be like, oh, it's okay, don't worry. But if it was a big man, they were just not, if they weren't just like paying attention or anything like that, your reactions would be completely different if it was a little girl or a massive man.
Yeah,
so it's just,
that's very true. Yeah,
the end point is exactly the same, it's just you've acted different from emotions in that between. So take the in between out and just look at the end goal rather than
that's really interesting, actually. Yeah, and I like that. I mean, I guess it all starts with self, doesn't it, really? Because often we always look for, like, you know, other people doing this for us, and obviously support is really important, don't get me wrong, after domestic abuse, but we often look for that external validation, support. But actually, I think from my experiences, and I think what you're saying as well, it's more about actually it's us, you know, they've got to do the work, and not in its entirety, because as I said, that support network is obviously really important as well, but within reason, it comes from within, I think, doesn't it?
Yeah, everything comes from with us if you handle it better with yourself. So we've all seen the quote, it's not 10% what happens to us, 90% how we handle it. So like if something does happen, look at the outcome. The outcome's going to be the same whether you cry about it, shout about it, scream about it, like do up a massive document about it, the outcome is still going to be the same, but you get to choose whether it's going to be more enjoyable for yourself or you're just going to let it ruin yourself. Also, you can just sit there and just ask yourself, like, is this going to be bothering me this time next year? Like, if it's this, why are you letting it take over today? Like, just let it go. Like,
how do you put that kind of I say barrier, but how do you put that kind of like almost bubble around you, isn't it, of like peace and kind of you're not coming into my energy? Is there kind of like a way of kind of doing that? Because sometimes, again, it's kind of so easier said than done, but when you're kind of low in confidence and you're kind of, you know, someone will say something that for someone who's not been in an abusive relationship, it may mean nothing and it will just bounce off and they'll carry on their day. But if someone who's a bit sort of naturally sensitive, you know, because of something they've been through, or name calling or physical abuse, something happens and they're like triggered, as you said before, I mean, how do you kind of put that kind of peaceful exterior or interior, isn't it, I guess, interior of kind of like, no, that's not going to come into my kind of energy field sort of thing?
It does take time, but one small thing that you could possibly do is say if you, like you just said, a name, someone calls you a name, you might take that to heart, but what you could actually do is write it down. Have you got a fact to back that up? Say, give me a name. I don't know, I don't want to say a bad name, but like if someone called, I don't know, whatever name, just have you got a fact, and can you back it up with something that you can't? And do something for yourself, like just because so and so thinks that this of you, is it actually true? What have you done for yourself? What have you done? Like, you back yourself up, you don't need them to back you up, if that makes sense. So just because you have your own validation, number one, it's not true, and give yourself a fact. Like if you can't back it up with a fact that that word or whatever it is true, then it's just let it go. If you feel like it is, if you do feel like it's true, then we'd just have to have a look, why do you feel that's true? And you'd probably do something like some tasks, kind of like, where have you actually felt like you was that person, and then it would just be something in the past, and then you just
work through that. No, that's a really good point, actually, because I think often, again, through the abuse, I think we're taught to kind of take things as they appear to us, you know, whether that's, as I said, the name calling, and obviously when your confidence is so low, it is very easy and kind of, you know, kind of say it's normal, isn't it, sadly, to actually accept that if someone calls you worthless, you think, oh, actually, you get to a point where you're like, oh yeah, I am worthless, I can't do that, I can't achieve that. And that's where I think the reliance on that abuser comes in, I think, sadly. But I think, you know, from what you've said and what you've demonstrated through what you've obviously achieved in your life, is actually you've been through a hell of a lot. You've had people who've sadly tried to knock you down, you know, kind of keep you down. But when you've worked on yourself, you kind of actually, you know your worth now, and kind of, again, can spot can you sort of, I guess, spot the behaviours now, those red flags? Or is it kind of, you know, Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So even after the domestic abuse, I went to like therapy, I went to Women's Aid, I went through all of that. You can actually see the patterns, not from my ex-husband, but like childhood. You can see the patterns of where it happened there. So like domestic abuse, you'd be like, see, you've made me smash that. That was your fault. You've done that. But then you can look at like domestic abuse from when I was a child. Like I'm doing this because of you. Like, do you see what I mean? It was just like kind of the same cycle. So like. Before I would ignore it, so I used to ignore it. People used to tell me when I was younger that it was wrong, but then when I was feeling like it was young when I was older, I was like, maybe it's not, maybe it is just me. So like you kind of believe it. So now definitely 110%. If it doesn't feel right, your intuition is always 110% right.
It's so true, isn't it? And I think we often, probably I reckon 99% of people that will watch this will probably be able to say, yeah, I did. My gut was screaming quite literally, or I saw that red flag early on. But whether it's through like the love bombing phase where we've got this charming person who sometimes is a little bit, sort of off balance, shall we say, with their behaviour, and we get drawn back into it, and it kind of goes out in a bit of a circle, doesn't it?
Yeah. And it's not like little things you can do. Like now, if I'm dating, I'll just literally ask myself, if this man isn't showing up the way I want, I'd literally, like, I don't have a dad, my granddad or anything like that. I just sit there and go, if this man was dating my daughter, would I be happy with this level of if it's a no, he's gone.
Exactly. One strike and I think they're out, aren't they?
Yeah, literally. Like, obviously you've got to compromise and things like that, but if there is times where I think I would not accept this for my daughter, then I don't accept it for myself. So that's
a fair point, isn't it?
A lot of people don't look at it like that. They just put them off to themselves. Like, if it was my daughter, I wouldn't allow it, but why do you allow it for yourself? Like, you should be set, if you've got children, you should set the tone. Like, do you see what I mean? Like, you're no less important than your children at the end of the person. You're not just a mom.
That's so true, isn't it? I think often we kind of forget. I think, children know children. I think sometimes when you're empathetic and kind and caring, we want to kind of not make people happy, but we want to almost see people happy, don't we? So within us, we're like, oh no, he's not very happy, I better do something or say something, and kind of, because we want to please. And again, whether that is from childhood, who knows? I don't know the psychology behind that sort of behaviour, but I think there's so much to that, isn't there? That kind of personality of individual wanting to kind of see other people pleased and happy and joyful as well.
Does come from childhood. So if you people please, it does stem from childhood. So if you had a lot of responsibility, if you felt like somebody was responsible for you from a young child, and you always felt like you had to have other people's needs, it does stem from childhood. You grow up trying to make everybody, it just becomes your nature.
Yeah. And is there a way of kind of, I know, like you said about talking to yourself kindly, as if you were, the child, so to speak. Again, is there a way of kind of building that into yourself, like, again, like a daily practice or something? Is that just through that self-love, self-care, that kind of thing, that you could learn how to do that?
Yeah, just literally sitting with the emotions again and just asking yourself, like, sometimes we do things when we don't even want to, because you get that little adrenaline thinking like, oh, I must do that, I want to help. But then you should sit back, like, do I actually want to do this? Is this going to serve me? And you got to learn the word no and be comfortable with the word no. Like, if you're not going to, because if you think about, if you don't fill, we've all heard this, if you don't fill your own cup, then how can you fill other people's? Until the point yours is completely empty. So sit there and just ask yourself, does this actually align with what I'm actually trying to do? Like, do I need to help this person, or is that just coming from the past me, what that wanted to help everybody? Like,
definitely. Those boundaries are so important.
I still want to help everybody, but it's come to the point where I know I can't. There's a select people that I'm better at helping because they want the help, whereas before I just I want to help everybody, I want to do this, I want to save the world. But now it's just like I haven't got the energy to do all of that. Like, one person can't do that. So let's do that one by one, and at the same time I enjoy it and I'm feeling vibrant at the same time, because I've tried to do all that, I just drained, and it's just
that's enjoyable. Isn't it? Yeah, and then, as you said, I don't think when you're in that state yourself, you're probably not helping anyone really, obviously including yourself, but kind of you're not giving sort of all the energy, attention that you kind of can put into something, and then it's kind of counterproductive anyway, isn't it?
Yeah,
definitely.
None of us went through all of that to be that, so always ask yourself, did I go through all of that just to be unhappy and anxious and drained and all of that? So you've got a purpose. I believe that, like, if we've been through these things, we're on the other side, like how we've gone through this and we're on the other side, we can actually use that to help other people come through. But if we're drained and we're just like literally hanging on to the energy, because it won't work. You've got to be able to take a step back, go to bed, read your book.
Yeah, exactly, definitely. And that self-care is just really important, isn't it? And then talking about that in terms of the work you do now, Louise, I know you sort of support women, you know, fitness and mindset and healthy eating. Can you talk us through kind of, you know, I guess what your business model is at the moment and how you can sort of help? Is it women and men you work with? Sorry. Or
yeah. Yeah, I was initially just going to do women, but then I had quite a lot of men reach out to me because I'm really good at helping people build their confidence, and there are so many men that aren't actually that confident, and obviously they're not going to go to like another man like, I want help with this. So yeah, I do both.
Brilliant, amazing. What sort of strategies do you use for that? Just sort of surface level in terms of the work that you do.
So there's like 4 key elements. So fitness. So basically the energy that you're putting out, like obviously that's going to make you feel a little bit better. What you're putting in, so like your nutrition, like what are people around you like? Are you around positive people? Are they actually uplifting your life? And we've got mindset, so a lot of mindset work, like looking back, doing there's different ways you can do it, and then the emotions that we talked about, and like spiritual side, emotions, and all of that. So that all comes in one. So everything I needed back when as a coach. So I started with a fitness coach, and then I was like, no, I started with a spiritual coach, and then I started with a fitness coach, and then it was that. So I spent thousands and thousands on all of these different coaches, to the point I was just like, I'm just going to make it all in one. So I do all of them in one. So I can literally look at somebody's life as a bird's eye view and be like, are you actually handling that? You're not going to the gym because you're fatigued, because you haven't been sleeping, or because you're drained from your relationship or your work, or so it all comes together.
Yeah, and that's a kind of good package to have, isn't it? Because like you said, I think one probably links to the other, or some of them link, and then I think you're kind of like a holistic viewpoint of someone's life as a whole.
I literally had 5 coaches at one point. It was costing me a fortune. I was just like, I felt like I was repeating myself to each one. I was just like, if you can just have one person that can look at your life in a whole perspective, your fitness, your nutrition, the people around you, your job, your relationship, business, like it's just how to calm you down and just like actually live.
Absolutely. And do you do like, is it like a program for a certain number of weeks, or is it like group sessions 1-to-1?
It depends. So depending on, I always say a minimum of 6 months, just for the fact you can't fix it. You have to learn about yourself. So we all get excited, don't we? 2-3 weeks, I'm starting a new program, this is going to be great. And then reality kicks in, life takes over the kids, that you're going to go on holiday, and then just learning how to do it. So the way I do it is I actually coach them to actually put it into their life and stick to it, rather than just doing a 12-week program or a 6-week like fat loss program or whatever it is, or mindset thing. And we actually, it's more tailored to them. So like one-on-one, we'll actually look at all elements in their life, and we'll focus on one at a time, and they learn about themselves. So I'd say minimum of 6 months, just for the fact that you are. I have done 3 months before, but they always stay on to a minimum of 6. Like I've always, that's why I just say 6 now, because you learn so much about yourself that you didn't even realize.
I can imagine, to get the full benefit. I think, like you said, to, you know, especially for all those different aspects of life, I can imagine, you know, that 6 months would literally be transformational. I can imagine.
I've got people that have had people with me for 2 years now, and they've lost like 30-40 kg. They've like gone back to uni, they've got their businesses, they've like seen where they are happy with their relationships, like their home life is happier, their kids, one of them, my mum, she didn't get over her like her father when he passed. So they thought her son had ADHD. Well, in fact, what happened was she was so emotional, she didn't take over it, she wasn't looking after herself, so she wasn't kind of like putting the energy into her son. Her son is now well behaved, doesn't have ADHD, and everything at home is absolutely fine.
That's amazing. God, that goes back to your earlier point, I guess, doesn't it? In terms of when we look after ourselves, it then has a knock-on effect with everyone around us as well.
Yeah, literally coffee. And then I've got like some people that'll say like their husbands are saying, oh, like you're so much happier since you've been with Louise. So like, yeah, so it's really nice. Like they're looking better, feeling better, they're doing things in their life that they've always put off. They've got the belief that they can actually do it, and they want to do it as well. Like not a lot of people think the ideology of having something is great, but the actual belief of having it for themselves is completely different.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I think a lot of us, especially kind of after these challenges, we kind of, yeah, even myself personally would need not necessarily accountability, but I suppose it's that support network, isn't it? If someone, I want to achieve this, I want to sort of be more confident or be healthier, or, you know, have a more positive mindset. But I think some of us just don't know where to start, do we? We're like, I don't know where to start, so I'm not going to start at all. Whereas with someone like yourself, you've been there and done it. You know, not that I wish that circumstances upon you at all, but I think you can use those life experiences to then resonate with people, have that level of understanding, and then get them to the more positive life that, you know, you're also leading as well.
I'm actually glad it happened. Like, I've had things happen because people are so much more open to me, and I understand. And people didn't reveal half the stuff about them until like this is going to sound bad, but I make a lot of people cry.
Oh no.
They don't even realise like what's going on around them, and like, oh my god, yeah, like in a happy way, like so. Yeah, like if you ask somebody what do they actually want in life just for themselves, what's their definition of confident, what's their definition of real life, that not a lot of people actually know the actual real answer. It'll always be towards the parents, the kids. We've all got generic, like, be able to go on holiday, have a happy family life, be financially free. Okay, give me your like, nobody actually realizes what that as that actual, what is that for you though?
It's true, isn't it? It's that kind of deeper dive. We're all very kind of surface level. I just want to be happy, but what is that? Because it's probably different for everyone, isn't it? I think.
Yeah, and emotion can go as well. Like I said to you, emotions are just emotion. It's just attached to a thought. So one minute, have you ever noticed you can be really happy, the next minute you can be really sad? Happy just fades. Like, how can you actually be content? That's the word you want to be. How can you, even when you are sad, can you sit there and be like, yeah, I still made it there.
Yeah, exactly. Did you ever think you'd be kind of here doing this now? I mean, you know, kind of, so it sounds like, was it about 2 years ago then, the sort of the strokes of that abusive relationship, or a bit more?
Well, I left my ex, about 3.5 years, 3 to 3.5 years.
Wow, so quite a short time frame in the grand scheme of kind of, you know, what's obviously happened, what you've been through, and then obviously all the learning you've done and the positivity you've kind of, you know, through your own business since then.
Like when I was going through the domestic, because everything I've been through prior to him, I was already doing my studying for this anyway. Everything I was doing, I already knew I was going to do it. So I actually started studying all of this years and years prior to that, after I went through my divorce and homelessness and stuff. So I already knew I was going to be doing this. So I was actually studying whilst going through that as well.
Wow,
and then, so as soon as like that had finished, I actually opened my business because I was already qualified, all of this, and I was just like, there's no time to lose now. So
yeah, good for you. Good for you. It's amazing, that transformation just for yourself, and obviously, like you said, through the business, you've obviously been there, done it for yourself, and then that's kind of like the proof in the pudding, isn't it, that you can then do that for your clients as well, which is amazing. And I kind of, the way you said, oh, I'm kind of glad it happened to me, like, so many of us, it's such a weird thing to say, isn't it? Because I'd agree with what you're saying in terms of my experience, and people are like, yeah, but bloody hell, like, why would you? I do, for exactly the same reasons you said, and that it gives you a different perspective on life, I think, doesn't it? An appreciation, a gratitude, and just, again, that contentness, perhaps, that I've been through this, but now I appreciate like the simple things, which is a nice feeling to have, isn't it?
At the time, I didn't enjoy it, obviously, and I was just like,
of course,
right at the time. But then at the end, I was like, what have I actually learned from this? Because obviously, everything bad you actually can make it turn into a positive. What can I learn from this? And there's two big things: my intuition and putting myself first before others, which I never thought I'd ever do in my whole entire life. Because I thought my purpose was to have a child and just not be the mom that I had. That's what I thought it was. So it was I wouldn't have learned them things any other way. And now, knowing my intuition, it won't happen again. Well, like, I'm never going to say no, but I'm glad. That's why I'm glad, because it's given me even more confidence.
Yeah, it's amazing. No, well, good for you, because I think, you know, I said before, what you've been through is challenging, to say the least, but to come out, and you're such a smiley, happy, bubbly person. And again, I know we all have our down days, don't get me wrong, but it's just so nice to see that transformation for you after everything you've been through. And I know just the conversation we've had today will just inspire people watching to know that, you know, you've been through all that, which has been really, really difficult, but yet you've kind of utilized that, and as you said, learned kind of self-taught yourself, kind of, you know, focused on the self-care, the reflection, the gratitude to be like doing the amazing things you are now. So yeah, well done, because it's not easy, is it? But I think the journey is probably worthwhile.
Yeah, definitely. If I think about like now, when I'm thinking about opportunities, like you said earlier about, like I mentioned, the film script and all of these things, like when I was going through that, I never thought this, but now, because I know that like all of these things are happening, I was like, imagine what is next. Whereas before I was just like, what is next?
Yeah, literally. Yeah. So do you feel like the world's your oyster now? Are you kind of at that stage of like, no, I'm kind of at a point you want to be at in life, and you're kind of looking at
I've literally
wider horizons?
I'm just selling this place. I've just sold it, and I'm going to do some traveling. And just see what, like, I'm just happy to just do whatever now.
Amazing. That's so good to hear. Fantastic. And Louise, for anyone that's watching, I will pop the your social media like handles and that in the group. But is there a best way or good way to kind of reach out to you for anyone that wants to connect?
Either on Instagram or Facebook, or my number if you want to give them that. That's fine. I've got a work number.
All right, fantastic, brilliant. And is there anything else you want to tell the ladies today that perhaps we haven't discussed? Or so I know you're in the wonderful Start Over book series with myself, which is how we initially connected. And am I right in saying you're book 8? Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah, fantastic. Do we know when that one's out? I'm not quite sure if we do yet.
No, I'm not actually sure. I'll think about that when it's coming.
Yeah, absolutely. I can write when it's out. I'll let people in the group know, and then they can obviously go and see your story, which I'm sure many people would love to. But thank you so much again, Louise. It's really wonderful chatting to you. And I know Sia's been, you know, commenting about how brave you are, and just well done for kind of getting everything out there and just transforming your life. So yeah.
Oh, thank you.
I completely agree. You're an inspiration. I know anyone that's watching this on the replay will just agree that the fact that you've kind of been through that and now come out the other side and doing such amazing things is just wonderful. So yeah, thank you for taking the time to speak to me, lovely. Okay.
See you later.
All right. Speak to you soon, Louise. Take care. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.